Come in, sit back, relax. We've got your Pride TV. We're bringing you some Pride TV. We've got so much to share right here on Pride TV. We're bringing you your Pride TV.
And now, Pride TV with Dale LePage.
Hey everybody, Dale LePage here. Thank you for tuning in to our second part of our Coping with Anxiety special here on New England Pride TV. We've got our same panel with us, and thank you for coming. Just quickly introduce yourselves, please.
Nicole Daigle, Director and Counselor at Serenity Coaching and Counseling.
Hi, Liz Green, Counselor at Serenity Coaching and Counseling.
Hi, Jack Bonina. I'm with private practice in Worcester on Elm Street, and I'm also Director of Outpatient Substance Use Services at Community Health Link in Worcester.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Plant. I'm the DBT Specialist at Open Sky Community Services and clinician at the Bridge Counseling Center.
And once again, thank you all for being here. I'm learning a lot. I'm sure our viewers are learning a lot. So thank you for taking the time out of your day. I know how busy you are, so I really appreciate that. This show is going to be more like a forum thing. We're going to be doing a discussion piece. And we're going to start off with the question that I was curious about myself. It's, do you think anxiety is hereditary? I'm going to start here, and then we'll just jump in wherever we can.
So I think from our perspective, or definitely from my perspective, it's definitely a little bit of both. Just like if you were looking at a physical illness like diabetes, right, you can be more prone, right, to certain kinds of chemical changes. So why would mental health be any different, right? Okay. So you've got this piece that can be there, and it can either maybe be triggered by environmental causes, or be there from the start, or maybe there's no hereditary, but something in your life majorly happens and triggers that switch, you know? So there's many different ways that it can come about. So it's definitely probably more a both question than either or.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that being nature versus nurture.
Right.
Okay.
Can you explain that?
So nature versus nurture. So I was born this way. My mom has a lack of B vitamin. I end up having a lack of B vitamin. That lack of B vitamin can kind of leave me on edge and anxious or sleepy. So I can equate that. So that can like hormonally pass down, or hereditary, the way we think. And then the nurture piece, whenever I first meet with clients, I ask, when you drop something accidentally, what do you say? I usually say, oh, S-H-I-T. If I ask my parents, they say the same exact thing. So where did I learn that from? And usually that will get you to say, oh, how did you learn to self-soothe? How did you learn to look at the world around you? And that's that nurture piece.
Yeah.
How about yourself, Jack?
Well, I would say if you grow up with an anxious parent, then you're learning all of those skills.
Yeah.
Right,
Being
right.
Anxious and looking at the world as an anxious place. So, and then of course the biological piece kicks in, you know, because it's probably something you inherited that makes you more prone to it. So.
Yeah, and I think there's just also a host of environmental risk factors that you can encounter throughout your life: trauma, abuse, poverty, you know, medical issues, challenging relationships in your life. So those sorts of things
Major stressors.
Major stressors, right, can also add to that anxiety.
I have to share, I'm sharing with the group, that means you too. I have the best mom in the whole world, I love my mom. But growing up, this is one of the things that sticks in my mind as being afraid or being anxious. I don't know if you remember, it was like in 1970 something, there was a satellite called Skylab. And you're all too young to remember this, right?
Terminator? Skylab?
It was called Skylab, and it fell out of orbit and it was falling to the Earth. I remember my mother grabbing me. I don't know how old I was, 77, and bringing me downstairs, hiding under the stairs with like canned goods and candles and flashlights and a radio and everything, because Skylab was falling. Like, you had to stay there until my father called and said it was okay. Do you know where Skylab fell? It fell in Australia. But I mean, like that kind of fear,
Yeah.
like that stays with you. Like that's a memory that I will always
But
have.
I would say this, do you remember what you had for dinner the night before?
No.
So that just shows you that
Yeah.
fear.
Yep.
And
Fear is powerful.
Correct.
Fear is powerful. Yes. We could probably do a whole group session on me being afraid to fly. But like my husband and I have flown all over the world. We have had amazing vacations all over the world. And then 10 years ago, bam, I could not get on a plane. Like we lost like thousands of dollars because I refused to get on the plane. And the plane never crashed. It's just.
Well, sometimes.
Do you deal with a lot of clients who have fear of flying?
Right, or it could be, I have a client in particular that, had driven most of his life and recently developed a fear of being in the car and being in traffic. And so what I think when you see that kind of sudden kind of like spike in a fear in something in particular, sometimes it's not due to a bad experience. Sometimes it's more like how that feels, and that feeling can be a metaphor for something else. Do you feel trapped?
I see what you're saying.
You can't get out.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Right.
By the way. Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
Which is where the anxiety is going to come from. It's not necessarily the plane ride itself.
Right.
And
So if I'm extremely claustrophobic, I don't even do elevators. I'm trying to do elevators now. But so I mean, the airplanes can be like extremely claustrophobic. So you're saying I shouldn't fly until I can afford first class. That's what I'm getting out of
Tell
this.
your husband.
or they're
This kind of
self-soothing.
goes into the stress thing too, because like society is so stressful and life is so stressful. Life
It
is
is
a
go, go,
stress
go, go.
event,
Yeah.
But I think going on vacation is stressful, and getting everything ready.
That's true. Yeah. It
And if
can
we're
be.
under stress for long periods of time, it's going to lead to anxiety.
Affect us in some way.
Yeah.
Right.
And not only
Anxiety
affects us
or
emotionally,
depression.
but physically, it changes our serotonin levels. And
Yeah.
Now, what are your serotonin levels?
So let's like
Does that have something to do with sleep?
no, that's our
That's melatonin.
Melatonin.
Sorry.
melatonin, yeah.
Yeah.
So when you talk about anxiety, you talk about stress, you talk about the adrenal gland. The adrenal gland produces cortisol, which is our stress hormone that produces kind of that feeling, that rush you get when you get anxiety. And it's a signaler throughout your body that kind of signals the body to create those physical symptoms. So when you don't have things to counter that, things that counter that is serotonin levels and your dopamine levels. So serotonin and dopamine is the feel-good chemicals. If you have a good enough chemicals to balance out those cortisol levels, chemically your body will kind of level out. And that's kind of what you're looking to do. So when we talk things about self-soothing or coping mechanisms or what have you.
Which we're going to come up with a question about
Right,
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you, in your treatments, speaking of like fear of flying, do you do any of that kind of like, what's it called, immersion therapy? Is that what's it called? No, exposure therapy.
Exposure therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my work, I specialize in treating trauma, so a lot of my exposure work is through trauma, but I have heard of great success with exposing
Yeah.
to specific fears, of flying being one of them.
Right. One of the questions that one of our guests wrote in is a very loaded question, and I am not going to shy away from anything because life is too short, damn it. So this is the question that is really important in this day and age. Okay, here it goes. Why is anxiety and panic attacks so rampant these days? Do you think the new political climate has increased social anxiety? All right, go.
Well, I've seen a lot of clients come in starting off talking about the political climate, the kind of polar
Yeah, the
kind of
polarity is-
thinking
yes.
of it, and then kind of their experience of it and talking about their anxiety around it and difficulty, whether it means talking to certain family members or old friends or Facebook rants.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Facebook can really just either be a friend or a foe, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, like my favorite thing is the block. I'm like, I run New England Pride TV's
Yeah.
Facebook page too, and we're up to almost 10,000 members, which is awesome. Thank you guys. But we get, we as a group page get a lot of I'm gonna say haters.
Haters.
Yeah.
Haters to the LGBTQ community,
Yeah.
and thankfully, on a business page like you guys have and like in New England Pride TV is, there is a not just a block button. There's a block and ban button,
Wow.
and I love that because I find, I don't know if you've ever dealt with this, but I find that the haters that are coming out of nowhere, like I search who it is first, and usually they're bogus accounts,
Yeah, it's bizarre.
and they're usually just
But that's also people trolling for a response.
trolling for a response, right? And like here we are with New England Pride TV, and we're focused in New England and on the great subject matter like this.
Yeah.
And a lot of the haters will be coming out of like Illinois and Texas and Missouri and Utah. I'm like, really? You guys care about what happens over here in New England, right? Really? Yeah. So they're just trolling for, right? So Facebook and
Right.
social media and Twitter.
And so I think with this increased kind of polarity, you know what I mean? People are afraid to talk. People are afraid to share their views. And unfortunately, that's because also people are afraid to kind of like, we're not showing people kind of mutual respect and talking
That's very
about
true.
these
Yeah.
topics,
Yep.
which I think is kind of sad and kind of part of the increase, because when I really talk to the clients about really what's going on, there's that fear. There's that fear of rejection, fear of isolation,
Or fear of a fight.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
I have a different opinion than everyone else. And if
Right.
I say that, I'm
Yeah.
going to be attacked.
Yeah.
Right, right.
That can happen in family systems too.
Yeah, it must be very tough on family
Yeah.
at family gatherings. I can imagine, right?
When you have somebody with a different set of ideas about things,
Yeah.
it can cause a lot of conflict.
It
so,
can.
Yeah.
I know some of the folks that I work with from the LGBTQ community live within very conservative family units
Yes.
and find gatherings to be really anxiety provoking. Holidays, times where they're going to have conversations with Uncle Joe, who's going to make a comment about,
Yep.
where's your husband at?
Yeah,
You know, and
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
it's hard, and
It is hard.
It produces added stress to an already stressful situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also, kind of stemming off that, it's, especially kind of when I noticed when the political kind of system kind of rises or things are coming to a head, I find more women and members of the LGBTQ community kind of have more fear, kind of just like in general about just
That's a really good point. And
Yeah.
I mean, on this show, we've seen that a lot. And
Yeah.
we have people writing in and
Yeah.
asking
right.
my opinion. I'm not as educated as any one of you. I'm just a schmo. But they ask me for guidance on finding like good therapists and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
so we're working on getting an LGBTQ IA friendly therapist list kind of thing,
Great.
which we are going to be working on. But that's a wonderful
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, I can imagine like sitting around the dinner table at holidays and
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It can cause holiday gatherings with family can be stressful.
as it is.
But
This
if
is-
there's
yeah.
a hot button issue and the political climate is so, like you said, polarized,
Right.
Yeah, and
it's really hard.
just I personally, I can only speak for myself. I adore my family. I love my family. I'm not giving you a kidney though, but no, I might. But even that, sometimes that can really ramp up your anxiety.
Yep.
Because let's face it. Every family that I know has a dysfunction of some degree, and it can be difficult. But throw the political climate on top of it.
Sure.
Right?
Right.
It's like just a like Molotov cocktail kind of thing.
It's a stew.
All right.
Yeah.
We're going to be back with more right after this.
Pride TV is presented by Fallon Health and sponsored by Remax Vision, Bay State Savings Bank, Safe Homes, Paul Chasen Interior Design, Nuovo Restaurant, Dr. Frank P. Fetchner Plastic Surgery, Art Reach, Root and Press Cafe and Bookstore, Herd Strategy and Storytelling, Castanetti Realty Group, and Eastern Bank.
Welcome back to New England Pride TV. I'm your host, Taylor Page, and thanks for sticking with us. We're going to continue with our Coping with Anxiety special. Again, if you're just tuning in, these are questions our viewers have posed to our panel of experts. All right, so we're going to jump right in. This is a question about substance, alcohol, marijuana, whatever. The question is, can smoking weed really help with anxiety, or does it only mask it, much like alcohol?
Well, my feeling is that it is a mask, okay? And people find that alcohol or marijuana, both being sedatives, tend to help bring down that level of anxiety and stress. But that's not addressing the issue, you know?
Right,
It's immediately
right.
reinforcing, but it doesn't help you to learn how to deal with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's really about finding other means of coping, you know, and not relying on drugs or alcohol as a way to cope, because once you sober up, you got to deal with it.
You got to deal with it anyway.
And I always tell folks that I work with, this is not a drugs are bad conversation. This is
Right.
a self-care conversation.
Okay.
So I'm not putting any of my values or morals on you,
Yep.
but how is this working out for you long term? Is this
Right.
is this serving you long term?
Right.
Yeah, because unfortunately, what I've seen in some clients is they'll use this and then they will almost have like tenfold symptoms once they sober up. And it,
Can you elaborate on that? Tenfold?
So you know what people don't realize when they're thinking about when they're using, say, substances, they're thinking about when they're under the influence, but then as it working. But then once they're out of the influence, it's usually much worse. So the anxiety can be
Because
much worse.
they've
or the
ignored it for
depression.
so long?
Part of it could be the masking. Part of it can be sometimes the substances, like, so for example, alcohol, it's almost like a sugar crash.
Yeah.
And so it can actually kind of increase it once you come down.
Oh, I wasn't aware. Thank
Yeah,
you.
for pot, it's kind of it'll level you out, but then it can, for some people, spike it up after as an aftermath effect.
Did not realize that.
I was going to say, I also have clients that when they run out of it, they have this idea that they cannot cope without it, so that when they start to run out of it, they're anxious about running out of it, and they believe in their mind that they can't cope without it.
Without it.
And when does my love of shoes turn into a shoe addiction?
Right.
The other thing too is you're building tolerance. You know,
You need
it
more.
takes more and more of alcohol or the drug
my
to
God,
get the
that never
same
dawned on me,
effect. You know, so
Right.
you really, that's where addiction starts. You know, a lot of people who have addiction started as a way of self-medicating, and then they needed more and more of the drug to deal with the same effect. You know, to get the same effect. So. It's a real cautionary tale, you know. That
It's
people
funny.
need to
Like
be-
I probably knew it all, but that's absolutely something that I didn't consider. Like, because you're building up a tolerance to it.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, you need that.
You need more and more.
It isn't just-
And then apparently, then alcoholism comes into play somewhere in some people, some instances. Correct. I mean,
It changes your brain chemistry, and once it changes your brain chemistry, that's when you cross that line.
Yeah,
Becomes a
interesting.
depressant.
Right.
yeah.
Oh, I didn't. Alcohol becomes a depressant.
Correct.
Yeah.
Same for marijuana.
Yeah.
If you use a lot of it,
Yeah.
it makes your depression worse.
I had no idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
It is. It is. We're giving you lots of
That's
ideas.
that's
here.
right. Have any of you ever dealt with a client or a patient who has tried CBD oil? Is it CBD oil or CBI oil?
CBD.
It's the cannabis
Yes.
oil.
Yeah. Yeah.
I tried it to help me sleep and calm me. It didn't work for me, but I had people who swear by it, and I'm an open. My life is basically an open book, and if I try something and it works or I like it, I'm gonna get it out there, and it might help others. But the CBD oil, and I tried like 3 different kinds, because apparently people were reaching out to me saying, oh no, that doesn't work, you need to try this kind or this strain, and I didn't know there were so many different strains.
I think it's well, my opinion is it's one of those things kind of like medication, right? Not every medication is going to work for you. Like everyone's body is different.
Right.
And so if you're talking about like homeopathic, if you're talking about CBD oil, if you're talking about lorazepam, right? Everybody's body chemistry is going to respond to different things differently. So it's really about kind of really understanding like what is my body doing and making sure you're getting the right help around that. So granted, you're not going to do that with a therapist, you're going to do that with a psychiatrist, or you're going to do that with your doctor, right? But it's really about getting that information, and really sometimes those things can't help. But CBD oil isn't getting you high like
No,
weed
it's not. I
is.
wanted to get that out there
Right.
too.
So-
it's not getting you high. It's,
Right.
it's supposed to be
so it's
like
less
a
masking.
calming.
It's not going to be that masking effect. It's more so going to be that calming effect.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for folks that struggle with the stigma of taking medications, CBD oil, it's sold everywhere. It's not.
It is sold
you don't
everywhere
need
now,
a
yes.
card, a marijuana, medical marijuana card to get it.
Yep.
And I think for individuals that I've worked with that they're very sensitive to medications, they've been willing to try that because it's natural.
It's natural. And
Right.
have any of them have any?
They have said that it does help to kind of bring that body anxiety down. Like
Really?
the physical symptoms of anxiety for them have calmed a bit.
I'm glad it works for somebody. It absolutely did not work for me.
Yeah.
It absolutely did not work for
I
me.
think you have to do the work too.
Yeah,
Yep.
You have to remember.
Yeah. Okay, this is, you guys don't know me, we've never met. I am a fitness nut. Like if I don't work out every single day, like if there's a day where I don't work out, like I don't feel right, you know,
Right.
like one of the questions, and the question is not from me, how much does diet or exercise play in a role with helping anxiety or helping with just mental well-being?
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think, regular exercise like you're talking about actually can be as effective as medication if done, daily, releases all those chemicals that
Right.
we're looking for, yeah.
It releases the what was it, serotonin?
So like going back to serotonin and dopamine. So
Yeah, all right. So the dopamine and serotonin are what makes us feel good?
Right, exactly. So that those chemicals are helpful in our system. They fight cortisol levels, which is that stress anxiety chemical.
All right. I hate to interrupt, but I have to because I'm so ADD that if I don't interrupt now, I'll forget what I was going to say. Now, the dopamine and the serotonin. Are there instances that you guys know where people just don't have enough in their body, and is that, or does everyone have the same amount, or?
Everybody's brain chemistry can be a little different.
Uh-huh,
And so
okay.
for people, and this goes maybe back to the question of like, is this a little bit of hereditary, right? Like, so
Okay.
there
Oh,
could
that's where I
be
was
the
going. Thank you,
chemical,
yeah.
right? And so for some people, there isn't that balance. And so if you're doing like what you said, like regular exercise, it is very important because exercise is one of the most natural ways you can produce yourself serotonin and dopamine.
Okay.
Right, and you're burning that adrenaline too.
Right.
That you have that fight, flight, freeze response. Your adrenaline is being dumped into your body, and when you're exercising, you're getting rid of that.
It's
Whereas,
also how much can you really think about when you're
right,
Right.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true, because you're more
Place
focused
to,
on doing
Right.
something,
Correct.
Do
right?
something, yeah.
Yeah.
that's a runner's high I talked about earlier.
Yes.
Yep.
I used to be a runner, and I got runner's high only once in my life, but I will never forget it. It was the most incredible thing of my life. I felt like I was flying. It was amazing, and no matter how much I ran after that, I couldn't find it. I couldn't get it. So I stopped running.
It takes me 45 minutes of yoga just to try to meditate for 10 minutes. That's how fast my brain works. Plus, I have all this information all the time.
Right.
So literally those last 10 minutes, I take breathing and yoga for 40
So you're big into meditation and yoga.
Correct. I try. I'm
Okay.
not very good at it.
Yeah,
but
but-
that's why I have to make sure I do
Yeah.
yoga twice a week. 'Cause that's
Okay.
the only thing that slows me down.
Does it
makes me
quiet your
present.
mind?
I try.
Okay.
That's
I
all
don't
you
think
do.
you can. I don't think you can be bad at meditation. I have
Not
a lot
at
of
it.
folks that I work with
Correct.
say, "I'm not good at it."
No.
Part of the practice is just doing
Correct.
it.
Just being-
you know?
Being present.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The mindfulness meditation process has gained a lot of popularity recently, and it's
When you
it's
say
a combina-
the mindfulness, do you mean like the meditation, the yoga? That's what you're referring to, or
well, mindfulness meditation is it's a process what was his name from UMass?
Kabat-Zinn.
John Kabat-Zinn.
Yeah.
He's really started the meditation.
The mindfulness-based stress
Mindful-
reduction clinic. They still have it. I
They
went through
do?
it recently.
Did you?
Amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's
Oh.
amazing, and he's done a lot of research about this worldwide. He's
For
become
medical
quite the
stuff.
popular guy
Yeah.
about how you can use this for medical purposes to help improve your recovery from illness. So it's a way of being present in the moment, but using relaxation techniques. So knowing what you're thinking, it's like meta thinking, meta-analysis.
Tuning in
yeah.
to yourself and
Mhm.
knowing your own anxiety.
If I'm not mistaken, and I often am, he actually has an app for UMass that goes on your phone. It's an app for meditation.
I think so,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Aren't you impressed that I knew that?
Yeah.
Because I am. I loved what you said earlier because I tend to forget this, and I think we all tend to forget this because we're so insanely busy in our lives, is being present.
Correct.
Being present is so important because if you're truly, and please feel free to correct me, if you're truly present and in the moment, like any anxiety or fear will just because you have to focus on, I'm focusing on what you're saying, I'm listening to you.
Yeah. Right.
And that means I don't have any more space in my mind for what if this happens? Because I'm really with you and I'm really focusing. And that's kind of that kind of mindfulness. Is that something that you talk about in your practices too? The being
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think anxiety is so future focused.
It is. It absolutely
Right.
is. One of our people who wrote a question is, she expressed, before I go to a party, I've already had 2 fights in my head with somebody at that party, and I know is going to be at that party.
That's anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Versus
Worst
now I'm
case
at the party and
scenario.
I'm having
Yeah.
a panic
Mm-hmm.
attack.
All right.
Worst case scenario. That's what
Yeah.
anxiety.
That's what anxiety is.
It's
Correct.
really,
All right.
you know.
So, unfortunately, I've been just given the 2-minute warning. So I want to just thank you from the bottom of my heart for being part of this. I hope we've spoken to you. I hope we've gotten to your question. I hope we've helped you in some way. I would like to just go through the panel once again and just say your name, where your business is, what your website is, kind of thing.
Sure. So my name's Nicole Daigle. I'm the director, and I also conduct therapy out of Serenity Coaching and Counseling. It's a small group practice located in Worcester. We're at 51 Union Street in Suite GO2. Our website is serenitycoachingcounseling.com, and our direct phone number is 508-556-0745.
And since you work together, do you have anything to add to that?
I'm Liz Green, and I'm also a counselor out of Serenity Coaching and Counseling, so you can find me at the same information, and please let us know if any way we can help.
Oh, beautiful. And Elizabeth?
Sure. I'm Elizabeth Plant, and I'm the DBT specialist at Open Sky Community Services, and I also am a clinician in the Bridge Counseling Center, which is a program of Open Sky. It's a small counseling center at 4 Man Street in Worcester. The number is 508-755-0333, and we are at openskycs.org.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Jack Beniner. I'm a clinical social worker. I'm in private practice at 74 Elm Street in Worcester. Probably the best way to reach me would be the Psychology Today website, which I always try to promote because it has most of the therapists in the Worcester area, and you can learn their profile on that, and that's the easy way to do it. The other way is I'd encourage you to go to communityhealthlink.org and find out more information about their organization, our organization.
Thank you. Great recommendation.
Okay.
And now I am going to end this show the way we always do by saying, please don't be afraid to shine your light because you might be lighting the way for someone in need. Until next time, thanks for watching New England Pride TV. Take care.